Someone was just blew their nose. The walls are thin here. It sounds like a honk. I asked if that was too much information. Mi dispiace. I'll just fornicate in another language. Or maybe I'll become a lawyer. And what did I say? Speak on it universally to the belay. Belay, drop down the rope and the trope, and elate. I'm a NIT, N-I-T. I serve the law, -T. I speak the universal language, to the assayed. Our irony of people speaking the law to assay it. The people under God. For the people under God, you're fording. Ford is shallow, and forging, well, that could be a larceny. You're stealing, or forge is also to make metal stronger. From what I understand, forging is a metal becomes stronger by heating it. You're speaking of God never being held to accountability. One-on-one, even through, even to. And so you're forging a third person that's fictional and that's meant to remain fictional so that you could keep getting your way by speaking on NIT, N-I-T, with the provision, doffed, that there will always be doffed because you're actually lending doffed to get doffed back in black, hyphenated. You're not the ways and means. Your God is stupid as you're lending, as your character lending, and you stand tooth on what you would have. And we're past that time now. The prescient present client is in residence. And what else? Yeah, if you're going to speak of God, you need to bring the goods. Other than that, you stand fictional tooth to force the trend of mistake and doffed. This miss is not mistake and doffed, D-O-F. I think it would be very hard if you use your eyeballs to think that I'm intending one whit to be mistake and doffed, D-O-F-T. In that I get to continue, C-O-N-T, aunt is beginning, if I remember. You can look it up. You can also see that I am silently in rendition through the ether, even. I am providing innocence and reflection that silence now in between the gaps has an honest and earnest zero. And your competitive marketplace for no reason thief end, its primary goal, put your hyphens in that, is to produce no one in innocence. So therefore it can maintain its desire. That's fictional. Fiction, nail. You never nailed the U, E-W-E-A-D, with your tooth. To lend it to, T-O-W-H-O. Kind of lost my thought. It may come back. I don't know. Let me think about it. See if there's something I need to nail down here. For understanding, to give vet, and I give G-I-V-E, parentheses I-T, a go. The ag, go. And go all, G-O, parentheses A-L-L-D, give it a God. I think we could start seeing through what appears as God now, and to call your writing under God through the law -T is really you've simply manipulated a language that was never meant to be even. Much like I believe I spoke of this earlier. Heard on the radio. It was a review of a book. I don't remember the book title or the author, but I think the author was female. Basically, she was illustrating that Republicans, the premise, for going to war is it was never meant to be democratic. So if you're voting on that premise, to end doff to toft, to dow with war with a trial balance bigot, bi is to hyphen g hyphen ot hyphen, you're just making pretenses of continually pushing the same shit around with hyphens that you sit, okay, and you seat, so other people can stare and their eye and think that they're the rep to pleat and B-L-E-A-T, the sound of the sheep, the bleat. And PB, I use that as plumb bum. When we think of a plumb bob and measuring, we're talking about vertical. So it's a string with a weight on it that gives you the vertical line. The vert I call, for me, is an allegory of the plane, P-L-A-N-E, the plane view versus the P-L-A-I-N, across the plane, or having height. So I'm referencing spirituality. Am I? Are you? Are you the Tao with war that create missiles to restore the soar? You shoot these things sky high so the clouds speak universally to proclaim your name, Thievane. Oh joy! In my imagination, if I were interested in fiction and delusion at the same time. To be my concubine of my creative child. Interlude. It's very cute to watch Minnow try to gather speed on tile, on slippery linoleum floors. It's very cute. There's probably some reverse irony in that comment. my knee rover came. It's so I can start practicing before surgery on my bunion, so I don't get to use that foot. I don't get to use that leg. I got a knee rover with hybrid wheels. The front are pneumatic. Hopefully wider spaced apart, because I was reading that they tip over. Unfortunately, the reviews that I read where people fell out of their knee rover, it's after they had their surgery. So I imagine that's not very fun to pick yourself up and gather yourself again. So I bought mine before so I can practice. I can see what kind of power curves I can make and not make. Not that anyone with bunion surgery, or not really technically thinking of being the off-road champ or the on-road. Is simply an assist that I've read is better than getting sore armpits with crutches. So I bought this used. It's $100 less. I got it on eBay. It smells like a smoker. The company that's actually selling this used is Knee Rover. To my recollection, they didn't make a note of it that this used product would smell like smoke or that it wouldn't. Most people on eBay include that. This item comes from a smoke-free, pet-free home. So it's a little misleading in scope. You know, we're gonna give you this used knee rover. It's less than buying it with this secret omission. It's just gonna fume in your small space, or not, because we don't really care to think about that. I don't have a large space for this to air out. It's kind of a curious omission for a company that is aligned with healthcare and recovery. I think it is. Thankfully, there are no knobs to push like the Pet Ego that sent this thumb sideways and it's still kind of tweaked. There's no knob for me to push to make it fit in the bottom drain of the platform. So let's see what trouble I will not be getting into. I get to keep all this packaging so that when I'm done, because you can rent a knee rover for 2 months, but it costs the same to buy it. Of course, mine costs $100 less because it's used. And if I keep the packaging, I can send it back. If I know it came in the packaging, I know it'll fit to send it to the next person. I've got an assortment of vinyl vapors and smoke. So I'm going to kneerover.com. They've got an assembly video there. See how that goes.
Hybrid. So this is how your hybrid should look straight out of the box. Now we're going to go over what comes in your parts bag. First, you have your instruction manual. Your axle clamps, height adjustment knob, you have your wrench for your tie rods, you have your tie rod bolt, and you have a tie rod washer and nut. Alright, the first step we're going to do is to remove the seat. In order to do that, you're just going to pull this little pin. You're going to open this quick release lever and just remove the seat from the ears. Alright, so your next step is to install the front axle. You're going to make sure that your front axle is turned the right way. Just make sure the spindle nut bolts are faced up. Make sure the nut's on the bottom. And you're going to put this
Put the nut on the
on
bottom.
the front axle.
Oh no, I missed that.
And take your axle clamps,
Need a
stick
repeat.
them through the hole here.
Put your nut on the
Put the nut
bottom.
on the bottom.
Put your nut on the bottom.
And you're going to open this quick release lever and then just remove the seat from the unit. Alright, so your next step is to install the front axle. You're going to make sure that your front axle is turned the right way. Just make sure these spindle nut bolts are faced up. Make sure the nut's on the bottom. And you're going to
Nuts on the bottom.
unit on the front axle. And take your axle clamps, stick them through the hole here. And put the nut on the bottom.
I'm not sure if I got enough axle clamps. Seriously?
Take the other axle clamp, slide it through the hole.
I think you missed that part. Good thing I got this early. Let's see. This is
I'm just going to
here.
clamp them down.
Oh no, they're attached to this.
Alright, so your next step is to install the tie rods. These are the tie rods right here.
I need
You're
to
going to make sure that the tie rod is mounted on top here. It's mounted on the pole here.
I need to repeat this a couple
Put
times.
the nut on the bottom. Take the other axle clamp, slide it through the hole. I'm just going to clamp them down. Alright, so your next step is to install the tie rods. These are the tie rods right here. You're going to make sure that the tie rod is mounted on top here. It's mounted on top here. And the tie rod that's mounted right here on the bottom is mounted below this black plate here.
Ah, one
And
top,
what
one
you're going to do
bottom.
is just take this bolt here. You're going to slide it through the hole here.
You gave me one of those. You didn't give me
And you're going
two.
to take
Oh,
the tie rod and line it up.
I don't need to.
And then you're going to put the washer.
Ugh.
And then you're going to put the nut.
Washer, then the nut.
And you're going to tighten it up with your provided wrench.
My provided wrench. Oh my goodness. My ass provided
Alright, so your next
wrench.
step is to fold the steering column up. In order
Where's
to do that, you're
the
going
bolt,
to pull this
a
quick release lever
washer,
over.
provided wrench. Hold your
You're going
horses.
to release it. And
Hold
you're going to
your
pull this locking
horses.
lever
Go
down.
back. Go back.
And you're going to take the tie rod and line it up.
Small. Let's see
And
what
you're going to
we
put
can
the
do.
washer. And then you're going to put the nut.
With the nut. The nut on the bottom.
And you're going to tighten it up with your provided wrench.
What? It's not tightening up very well.
Alright, so your next step is to fold the steering column up. In order to do that, you're going to just pull this quick release lever over to the left. And you're
Hold
going to
on.
release it. Alright, so your next step is to fold the steering column up. In order to do that, you're going to just pull this quick release lever over to the left. And you're going to release it.
Quick release.
And you're going to pull this locking lever down.
Ugh.
Then you're going to install
Then put the locking
handlebar.
lever down.
You need
Show,
to select
show
the
me
height
a
that
close
you like
up of
it. You're going to release it.
down.
Then you're going to pull this locking lever down.
Aha.
Then you're going to install the handlebars.
That's not very
You need to select the height that you like it and use the height adjustment knob to lock it into place.
Yeah.
Alright, so your next step is to install your knee pad. In order to do that, you're just going to take your knee pad and then drop it into the hole here. Select your height. Run the pin through.
So he's not telling you one
And you're going to take
thing.
this locking lever. And then
That
lock it.
is that
Alright, so your
lever.
next step is to take your
You
basket.
can twist
and
it
just
for
slide it into this
tightness.
clamp
He
here
didn't
on
say
your-
anything about that. Otherwise, it just flip flops around.
And then the foot bars. pull this quick release lever over
That one.
to the
Twist
left.
it to tighten
You're
it
gonna
so
release
it
it,
actually
and you're going to pull this locking lever
latches
down.
instead of does this.
Then you're going to
Flip
install
flop.
the handlebars.
Handlebars.
You need to select the height that you would like it, and use the height adjustment knob to lock it into place.
Few.
Alright, so your next step is to install your knee pad. In order to do that, you're just going to take your knee pad and then drop it into the hole here. Select your height,
So we haven't done that
run the
yet.
pin through,
Oh, the knob. This is.
and you're going to take this locking lever and then lock it open. Alright, so your next step is to take your basket and just slide it onto this clamp.
Just slide it on.
Alright, so your next step is to fold the steering column up. In order to do that, you're going to just pull this quick release lever over to the left. You're going to release it, and you're going to pull this locking lever down. Then you're going to install the handlebars.
That's what is
You
tilted.
need to select the height that you would like it, and use the height adjustment knob to lock it into place.
Few.
Alright, so your next step is to install your knee pad. In order to do that, you're just going to take your knee pad and then drop it into the hole here. Select your height, run the pin through, and you're going to take this locking lever and then lock it open. Alright, so your next step is to take your basket and just slide it onto this clamp here on your unit. And then just push it down with some force. Alright, so the last step in your user manual is to do a brake adjustment. If you need to do this, you can refer to our other video. Now you're ready to roll.
Oh, he's looking like he's having a lot of fun. Go back.
Alright, so your next step is to install the tie rods. These are the tie rods right here. You're going to make sure that the tie rod is mounted on top here, it's mounted on top here. And the tie rod that's mounted right here on the bottom is mounted below this black plate here. And what you're going to do is just take this bolt here, you're going to slide it through the hole here. And you're going to take the tie rod and line it up. And then you're going to put the washer. And then you're going to put the nut. And you're going to tighten it up with your provided wrench.
Give me a visual.
Alright, so your next step is to fold the steering column up. In order to do that, you're going to just pull this quick release lever over to the left. And you're going to release it, and you're going to pull this locking lever down. Then you're going to install the handlebars. You need to select the height that you would like it, and use the height adjustment knob to lock it into place.
Few.
Alright, so your next step is to install your knee pad. In order to do that, you're just going to take your knee pad and then drop it into the hole here. Select your height, run the pin through, and you're going to take this locking lever and then lock it open. Alright, so your next step is to take your basket and just slide it onto this clamp here on your unit. And then just push it down with some force.
Basket. Put the basket on your unit.
Alright, so the last step in your user manual is to do a brake adjustment. If you need to do this, you can refer to our other video. Now you're ready to roll.
Huh? That's in the way. How do you not put that in the way? I don't understand. I mean, I get that, but that is in the way. How do you move that?
Alright, we're here doing a product demonstration of our knee walkers. The first knee walker I've got is from 0've Medical Products. And basically, you got a foot or ankle injury. It's a great alternative to crutches for people who either can't use them or choose not to. The affected leg goes up on the pad. Basically, you scoot along with the walker. The drive walker has some good features. It's got 8-inch wheels, easy to transverse over obstacles, thresholds, things like that. It is adjustable to seat height for the user by just simply depressing the buttons and raising or lowering the legs all the way around to get that seat to adjust. It does have a bicycle type brake to help control the walker, and it folds up easily, lightweight, easy to transport. It is a covered item through insurance, and basically this is for drive and walker. Not a lot to it. The walker I'm going to show you is from Essential Medical. It's the Free Spirit. The Free Spirit has some advantages over the previous one. It's got a transmission type of steering, so it's a lot easier to maneuver and control. The seat adjusts a lot easier than the drive one as well. It's got a single post that telescopes up and down just simply by removing the bolt here. It's also got the large 8-inch wheels, so it's easy to transverse over thresholds, sidewalks, different things like that. The handlebars are also adjustable in height depending on the user. Just by unscrewing that and removing the bolt, it telescopes up and down as well. It's got 2 brakes on it, each wheel, so it's got a little bit more control. They lock out for transporting, just by pushing them down. You can get off, sit down, get crutches, or do what you're going to do. It also folds up, so it's easy to transport. Just loosen that bolt there. It's got a black knob here. You have to pull out to let it down. It goes up under the seat. Lightweight, stick in the trunk of the car, and you're out. Put that back up. Tighten that down, and you're up and down again.
Yeah.
That's the Essential Free Spirit walker. Both covered by insurance.
Hey, I'm Colin Gill with Drive Medical, and I'm here to show you the 790 knee walker today. If we start up top, we have the dual brake system that automatically locks and will stay locked. Great feature. A lot of knee walkers only have about 1 brake, and with the 2 brakes, you can kind of save yourself a little bit easier. If you have dexterity only in one hand, then usually you'll be fine still to use it. The next thing we'll move down here would be the self-dome seat. Very comfortable. It has little bellies in it that allow you to put your knee in any other position. And I'll demonstrate that in a minute.
Okay. Where were we? Mmm. See if I could get the height and everything right. I think I can. I think I can. Oh. So I may have missed that, or I don't know if they said it, but there's like a little clamp for the seat. It needs to have this in it to lock it. Because even if you clamp it tight, a little bit of pressure, it goes down. So, let's see, where was that? Okay. There. Let's check that. This seems kind of high. Hip is kind of high. Hip is kind of low, but less so than too high. So, up there. Still turns. I wish you wouldn't turn so much. Let's see. Clamp that tighter. And no hands. Okay, I've got a little basket. Got a brake. It's the rear brake. Wide front tire. That's likely to turn it over when I'm cruising at top speed. Backing up is probably not the way to go, but you can do it. Let's see. Alrighty, it is kind of fun. Might be getting in some one-legged exercise here. Let's see. Alright, so, we got a new accessory for a little bit. As far as taking it in the car, I could fit that in my car. It has a hatchback, and the back seats are folded down, so I just have a spread with a big blanket in it, a packing blanket for Minnow. He uses it as his lounge. He's set up to ride shotgun. He has a little pod. I used an old down blanket that he chewed. I encased it in parachute fabric, a silicone fabric with a ripstop nylon, I think it's nylon. Basically sleeping bag fabric, and it has a big zipper. And I put, he got a heated car seat for Christmas one year, and he has a heated car seat that sits inside that down pod or sleeping bag, basically. It goes up like a tent, and I could zip him right up in it. But when I give him a snack, which I do, I carry snacks in the glove compartment, because one year traveling to camp, I travel all over New England, Maine and New Hampshire, and there's lots of land and lots of camps with land and water. And so I eat as I drive, and Minnow was staring at me, and while I was eating, and he looked straight at me and bit the air. And I'm like, I know what you're saying. For nonverbal skills, Minnow communicates exceptionally well. And so I started carrying snacks in the glove compartment, so that when I have a snack or I'm eating, Minnow can have a dog-approved snack at the same time. Anyway, if I give Minnow a snack and he rides shotgun, he takes it to the back. He likes to eat in the lounge area. And he's got several Frisbees. I carry several Frisbees usually with me in the car. And if he does not get enough Frisbee each day, he will bark at me from the back of the car, because he wants me to play Frisbee while we're driving. Let's see. Anyway, that can fit in my car. So I need to go somewhere, like a doctor's appointment at some point, although I'd probably be calling a taxi. I could probably get that in a taxi. It might be a little messy. We'll have to work on some ideas. Maybe I need to hire a driver for my car. For the few appointments I'm going to need, 2 weeks, I believe, if I wrote this down right, I change out of the splint and I get a cast. 5 weeks, I get a second cast. 8 weeks, I get out of the cast and start walking. I'm gonna save all the goodies, because when I'm done with it, I'm gonna put it for sale. Like I bought it. Used. Let's see. I will say the packaging was expertly done. There was foam around all the metal surfaces so they wouldn't mar, and they had zip ties, so those were very sturdy. Smelling like smoke, you know, that's something to list. Either I didn't see it, which if it were there, I think I would have noticed. To say that it smelled like smoke or it didn't. Conceivably, that should have been there for a health industry adjunct supplier. I mean, supplier on hire for your greater health. Well, I'm excited about that. I have no joints that were like tweaked out of normal usage.